What's up guys, welcome back to another video. In this video we'll be giving the $500 build a brand new subframe. Let's get straight to it. Alright, so to give you a little bit of a recap, we challenged ourselves to try and build a bike for 500 bucks or less. We decided to do it with this Honda CB400 Twin. I bought this bike for 150 bucks a couple of years ago. And in the previous video we gave this bike all the maintenance that it needed. That was a total of 89.90 €, so that leaves us with a little bit under 240 euros spent. In this video we'll be trying to make a brand new subframe for this bike to give it a little bit of a better look, a little bit more custom. So let's start tearing off all the stuff that we're not going to use anymore and see what we're working with. Alright, so we took everything off the subframe except for the airbox. Airbox, you can't really take it out that easy unless you remove the rear wheel. We'll be cutting the subframe off, so we'll be taking it out that way so we don't have to take the wheel off. So right now we have to decide where we are going to cut the subframe. So what I had in mind is using the mount for the gas tank as a line where to cut it, because it's nice and straight right here. And I want to repurpose a little bit of the lower part as well right here, so we know at what angle we want it to have. Should make it a little bit easier when we start making a new one, so we don't have to figure out what kind of degrees and stuff like that. So I'm going to grab some tape, make a couple of marks, and then we'll start to cut. Alright, so this is the mount for the gas tank right here. As you can see, it's a pretty straight line. Used some electrical tape because apparently I'm out of masking tape to get a general idea of where I want to cut, which should be right around here. This doesn't have to be perfect. We of course will be modifying it and taking measurements and stuff like that in the future, but for now this seems like a pretty good general idea. I've done the same here as well. You probably can't see the tape too good because the frame is black as well as the tape, but it's from right here 13 centimeters to the top of the tape. So we're going to cut that right here. Of course on the other side as well. That should give us a pretty good general idea of what we are going to do. So let's start the cutting. Alright, so the subframe is cut and off. No going back now. So let's see how we did. Alright, so like I showed you, the subframe is off. I can already tell that these are cut at very different angles, as you can see. So we're going to have to fix that. I'm not surprised by it, but it is very noticeable, so we'll have to fix that. Probably just take another centimeter off or just grind one down to match the other one. Right here, yeah, I haven't noticed too much. Seems pretty much the same when I look at like this. I guess we'll take like a grinder and grind everything smooth to match this line right here. So that means that we have to go get some metal and start fabbing up a new one. Alright, so we made our basic cuts, so now we have to get a general idea of how we want to have our subframe look. I basically want to follow this line just straight up. I also already have a new seat for this bike. We basically want to have it like this. Of course, in the future we want to have it flush like that to the gas tank, but right now we have to, it doesn't fit because we have to make some modifications to this seat. But this is the general idea. So basically something like this. So it just would come up to here, I would say. So the mount for gas for our shocks would be around here. So basically around halfway the wheel. Of course we're going to get a little bit of too much steel, because again, if we have too little, then we have to go back again. So this basically to the axle of the rear wheel would be about 50 centimeters. See, maybe a little bit more, so we'll get 60 twice for each side. Already have a hoop right here. This is 1 inch, 2 millimeter thick, same as the subframe or what's left of it. So that should go right here. So basically only have to fill this gap. So 60 and 60 is already way too much, but I'd rather have a little bit too much than too little. And for this, I have no idea how much that should be. So let's take a rough estimate. Yeah, not that much. Let's see, this is 13 like that, 40. So probably for each one of these, like 30 centimeters. So we'll do 40, so that's 2 meters. Let's go to the shop, buy that, and we'll be right back. All right, we got our steel. This was a total of 29 euros. This one was just $3 because I had it as a leftover. This one is not really going to serve any other purpose than give us basically like a guideline for our angle on the lower part of the subframe, because as you can see, this fits in here quite snug. So that makes it a little bit easier to guess the angle that we're having. We're just gonna punch some holes in the back here, weld that stuck in here. So, but yeah, that's basically just for the angle. I bought 2 pieces of 60 centimeters and 2 of 40 centimeters. As you can see, that's already way too much, but it's nice to have a little bit of play in our materials. All right, so now that we have our metal, the first thing that I want to do is basically make the top part of the subframe, so the part where the seat is going to sit. So already have our hoop, and as you can see, that lines up pretty well with our seat. I mean, it's not perfect, but looks pretty good. It also lines up quite well with where the seat starts to get a little bit skinnier, so right around here somewhere. So this is where our other pipes would come in. So basically like this. And we're probably going to cut them around here somewhere, because they're gonna have to get it even a little bit more narrow to touch the frame. But this is basically the idea. So I'm going to grind these at a nicer angle, so these all line up a bit better. Yeah, let's start doing that. just grinded it down a bit, cleaned up the edges so the weld should stick. So we're just gonna put in a super tiny weld because we don't want to melt our plastic seat. So this is just a very minimal tack, but like I said, just using the seat for a general understanding of what the shape should be. Once we got it tacked down, we'll do some serious welding. So this will be a very simple tack. Here we go. Yeah, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. Like that. I'm gonna add just one more weld because this one seems a little bit wobbly, but other than that, it seems pretty good. Just gonna add one weld right here. That should do it. Get our seat off before it melts. Oh no, my mic. All right, so we have the basic shape for the top side of the subframe, but we have to connect that to the rest of the frame somehow. I think the easiest way to do that is to have the pipes of the lower part of the subframe already welded to it. Like I said earlier, I bought a pipe for just $3 that fits inside the original pipes of the subframe and the new pipes that I bought. The idea is we can slide the new one over these and we'll be pretty sure that the angle and how far in and out and stuff like that would be good. So that's why I made these things. So we're gonna jam these in here, drill a hole on each side so we can weld them stuck to them. After that, we'll slide our new pipes over these. Then we can take our measurements on how high we need to cut those. And then we should be good. So yeah, let's punch these in, give them a quick little weld, and put our new pipes over these. Good. Right, so the welder is still making a little bit of noise in the background, but as you can see, no more wiggling. Of course, they're still moving because they're a long pipe, but they're stuck to the frame. Before I'm going to cut it, I am going to add a little bit more welds because I'm afraid with pushing with the grinder and stuff, the weld might break or move around, so we don't want that. But basically the idea right now is just to hold our level underneath here because we of course want our pipe to run along and the bottom side of this pipe should lay on top of this pipe. So basically if we hold our level like this, when we actually hold it level like that, should be able to just make a mark here and cut it here. Do that twice, of course. After that, we should be able to just lay the top part on top of it. See whether it looks good, make our adjustments. After that, we'll of course take a couple of measurements again to make sure that the idea that we have is actually a good idea. If it's all good, then we'll weld it up and we'll be done. So yeah, I'm gonna put a couple more welds on here. After that, we'll cut it right here. Do the same thing for the other side, and then we'll put our top part on top of it. All right, so that just happened. It is off though, so I guess that's the good part. Not hurt at all. Very happy I was wearing these welders gloves, because it did nick almost through the glove right here. So if if I wasn't wearing that, my hand probably would look a little less good than it is. Already had this on from a cut that I had earlier, so that's no big deal. But it is cut, so let's move on. As you saw me do earlier, I used my watermark to make sure that everything's level, so there's stuff like that. I unfortunately do not have a tube notcher, so what I did is I cut about ½ an inch from the line where it's exactly level. And the idea is that I can just kind of grind in with another disc. Grind in like a guide for the tube to go through. If I were to have a tube notcher, that would probably look a whole lot nicer, but I don't have it, so this is just the way that we're going to do it. Once we weld and grind it, I doubt that you'll really see the difference. But the idea right now is to grab the part that we made for our seat, see what kind of adjustments we need to make those, put those on here, check for level again, stuff like that. After that, we'll do some grinding and welding. So this is the the top part of the subframe that the seat is going to sit on. Let's see if we take the gas tank off, maybe we can take a little bit of a better look. The seat mark of where the seat ends is right here, so that would basically be like this. Now it meets up with the frame a whole lot better. As you can see, we still need to make our divots. But this is basically the idea. I think it looks pretty good. So definitely pleased about that. We just have to make our bend right here. It's not that much, so I think we'll just cut it halfway, bend it slightly in, and we should meet up right here. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So this is what we have right now. Put a small little tack weld over there. As you can see, this lines up pretty nice. So yeah, what we gotta do right now is make a piece like this, so this will connect on the other side as well, of course. I think I am going to make a little cut right here and on the other side to bend the hoop up just a little bit, so it will fit the seat a little bit better. But so far looking pretty good, pretty happy with the progress. Took a couple measurements, everything looks pretty straight, so pretty pleased. So let's continue. Alright, so we have our piece right here. It's a little bit on the small side, but I think it'll work. So we're just gonna tack this into place, do the same thing for the other side, and then we'll start welding up a bit more. Don't want to fully weld it yet, just in case some measurements seem to be off a bit. But for now it's looking pretty good. So we're gonna tack this in place and do the other side. Alright, so in like the next 45 minutes are just me going to be welding and grinding off my welds and then welding again. So we're not going to bore you with that too much. Guess we'll make a quick little time lapse or something. And after that, I'll show you what I've done, and we'll test whether these welds are actually any kind of good. So I'll do some welding and grinding and stuff like that, and I'll show you what I've done when I'm done. So the subframe is fully welded. I also added a brace right here for some extra rigidity. As you can see right here, I made a cut right here as well to bend the hoop up just a little bit. Give it a little bit more of a playful look, I guess. Also, the seat will probably fit a bit more flush now that this is bent a little bit more up. So what I want to do right now is test whether these welds are actually any kind of good. Alright, so obviously I don't have a very secure way to tell whether the welds are actually any kind of good. It does feel very secure whilst welding. I did feel like I have very good penetration, so I think the welds are really good. As you can see, I started dancing on it. Nothing broke, obviously, because that would almost be impossible, but I think it's pretty good. So what we're going to do right now is come up with a way so we can attach our suspension. Yeah. Alright, so now we got to come up with a way to attach our suspension to the subframe. I'm going to use some cardboard just to get a rough outline of that. So let's say something like this. That seems good. Alright, so we got our rough idea of what we want to cut out of the old subframe and a way to weld it onto the new subframe. So we're gonna come up with some sort of shape to cut out of the old subframe because it already has the attachments point for the suspension. So after we've done this, we decided this is the general shape we want to have. So now that we've made our cut, we can hold it against here again, like that. I think that would look good. I think also it would be more than enough meat to weld on properly and not break off. So now we're going to trace these lines back again on our subframe, our old subframe. So this is our old subframe. This is the cardboard piece that we made. So we've put it over here and we've traced it. We did it with a black marker, so it's already kind of hard to see in real life. So don't know whether it'll actually show up on camera. But there's a line right here, going through here, and here, and those can connect like that. So this is the shape that I'm going to cut out. This seems to be quite in the center of things, so that's good. After we cut this out, we'll cut out the other part on the other side, and then we'll copy this part as much as possible, because we want our suspension to be compressed and decompressed at the same time, of course. So if these holes don't line up on both sides, I think the rear suspension is going to get kind of wobbly. So what I want to do is cut this one out first, so we know that we have our shape, and then copy this shape on the other side as good as we can. But let's cut this part out first. This is what we ended up with so far. Eventually, of course, I'm going to weld the rear part shut as well with some steel I have laying around. But this is going to sit right here, like this. I'll give you a little bit of a better look of what it's going to look like eventually. This is basically what it's going to look like. Like I said earlier, once I've welded this in, of course, I'm going to shut the rear part. Right now it maybe looks a little bit odd because this is like a faded rusty black and this is just a bare metal. We obviously are going to paint the entire thing. But to be honest, I think it actually looks really good. I like that it's pretty small. I feel pretty confident that this should be more than enough. There's more than enough meat to properly weld it to the subframe. So yeah, I got a pretty good feeling about this. So what I'm going to do right now is grind off a little bit of the paint, give it a couple spot welds. After that we'll do the other side, and then we'll weld the whole thing in, and then we should be good to go. Alright, so we're basically finished with our subframe. In my opinion, it looks pretty good. In the future, there are definitely a couple of things I would do differently. For instance, I would double check the sizes of the stuff that I buy. So the hoop that you see right here is actually 1.1 inch instead of just a regular 1 inch. So as you can see, it's a little bit thicker than the rest of these tubes. Oopsie, it happens, whatever. I think with some Bondo and painting it black in the future, it'll look fine. But that's definitely something I will double check in the future. Besides that, I would also probably try to borrow or buy a tube notcher to make my life a little bit easier. And the third thing would be I would just build the subframe that I like instead of modeling it off a seat that I have laying around. But other than those things, I am very happy with the end result. I think it looks really good. I didn't want to go really overboard and make something weird. I wanted to basically have what kind of looks like a stock frame with the internals removed, as you see with like another whole lot of other cafe racers and brats and stuff like that. A nice triangle. I do think we achieved that look, so I'm very happy about that. It was also a very fun challenge. Never did anything like this before, so that was a lot of fun. I'll give you a quick little look at the welds, especially the part where I grinded them off. Alright, so this is what we're working with right now. I tried to clean them up as best I could in the time that I felt like spending on it. Once we are going to paint, I will take some sandpaper and stuff like that, so it will be a little bit smoother than this, but this is basically what we have. Don't want to spend like an hour or two on just spending on getting this perfect, seeing how this is still just a $500 build for fun, not to take too seriously. So I didn't remove the welds on the inside. I know they look like bird poop, but they should be more than solid enough. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the cost so far. So the bike was $150, maintenance was $89.90. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there was a total of, well, basically $240. The cost of building this subframe, we bought steel, 29 euros worth of steel, and a hoop. The hoop was 21 euros and 95 cents to be exact. So that gives us a total of 290 and 85 cents. So the subframe, basically you can build this for 50 bucks and quite a couple of hours of your work. In my opinion, it's definitely worth it, but I can't imagine if I were to have a little bit more money and someone was selling like a weld on for like 200 bucks, I would definitely consider doing that as well. I feel like putting like a weld on here would be like an hour, 2 hours worth max. So that would be very interesting as well. But I'm glad we did it this way. It was a new challenge for me. I've never done anything like this before, so it was a little bit challenging, but definitely a lot of fun. So in the previous episode and in this episode, we did like mostly like slow paced work, so all the maintenance and now the subframe. In the coming episode, I want to get a little bit more of a pace going on. So in the next episode, we're going to make an electrical box for all our electrical stuff. Also new fenders, and want to install some new lights and stuff like that. So if you're interested definitely don't forget to subscribe. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, definitely don't forget to subscribe. If you didn't, I hope you'll let me know why, and maybe I'll do better in the future. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.